Good morning, my name is Chris Fox, and today we're talking about the life cycle of a book. So as you'll see in the next segment, I'll sort of give you some examples using my series. When you're writing a series and putting out books, many of us assume that your launch window is like where you're making 80% of the money for a book. And if you blow a launch, the book is screwed forever, and so is the series. And what I want to get that idea out of people's heads, because books follow like a 3 to 5 year cycle. Readers tend to age out of whatever they're reading. So if you are a habitual reader today, meaning that you're reading a book every single day, and maybe lit RPG is your thing, or science fiction, or romance, or whatever you're reading, in 3 years, your taste will change. And if you are still a habitual reader, and some people are, they are their entire lives, you'll have switched to another genre or another flavor of a genre you like. So if you liked billionaire romance, for example, then today you may be into harem or reverse harem. Your tastes tend to change over time. What that means for you as an author is that the people who are seeing your book are going to change every 3 to 5 years. So if you promoted the heck out of your series 3 years ago and you bring it back today and promote it, there are going to be those people who remember the series. And if there were any books in that series they didn't finish, they might pick it back up and reread your series and then buy the missing volumes. But most people probably have never seen your series before. And this is why I can continue to promote military science fiction as an example every year. So I wrote Destroyer all the way back in March of 2016. The 6th and final book in that series came out in May of 2017. So here we are 2 years later, and I have not published another book in this series, and I just keep launching stuff. So I launched the trilogy as a box set, and then very recently I launched the complete series as a box set, which has just taken off and is printing money. The audio for that should go live any day, and it should be making money for like a month or two. Just like the Magitech Chronicles quadrilogy did, where it's kind of keeping my whole backlist afloat. And all it is repackaging content. I am taking books that I wrote 2 years ago and putting them in a box and selling them and just making great money doing so. It's a testament to the fact that books follow a life cycle. I heard a great statement from Anne Rice, and she said that vampires have already been popular, a craze, she called it, 3 times in her life. She's watched vampires become very, very popular, and her books just sell in truckloads every time that happens. And the same is going to be true for us on our backlist. It's going to be cyclic. So if your books are doing really well right now, they may not be in a year, and you might have to do some tricks like releasing some box sets and rotating your backlist to keep things top of mind. If they are doing incredibly well, great. But if they're not and you just can't seem to get any traction, the inverse can also be true. You can find in 12 months, okay, now you've got 6 books out, you put out the first 3 in a box set, and all of a sudden your series takes off and you're making crazy money. Kevin McLaughlin is a great example of this. I've watched him for the last couple of years. He writes very similar science fiction to what I write. I would call him a friend. We haven't hung out a lot, but I've seen him at a lot of conferences. I like him. We have a lot in common. Well, Kevin doesn't usually dominate the charts. I don't see him in the top 20, top 30 of science fiction authors. But when he released his complete series box set, all of a sudden, he went flying up the charts, and now he's been there for a couple of months, and I see him making that crazy money. It's never too late for you to break out and start doing that if you keep writing that quality content. So be aware of the life cycle of a book. If your book is not performing well right now, don't worry. Don't get depressed. You are creating content that's going to sell for the rest of your life. Not for a week, not for a month, not for a year, not even for a decade. Your whole life, this stuff's going to be selling. And you've got cycles where you can bring these series back, so you'll always be able to make money. So if you're discouraged right now, and my best friend, my real life best friend, released his first trilogy, and it's not meeting his expectations. So he's sort of seeing this disappointment right now that many of us have seen, where we have a launch that doesn't meet our expectations. Well, if that's the case, and if you have a launch that's not doing well, if you're at a point in your career where you can't afford the best covers in your genre, if you just feel like, man, I am never going to make it, don't worry. Don't worry. Books are cyclic. Understand the life cycle of a series, and you can see how later on down the road, the things that you're writing right now that are not successful could be successful for you later. And the things that are successful can be successful again for the rest of your career. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into the second segment of the video. We'll look at my backlist and you'll see more of what I'm talking about. Okay, life cycle of a book, right? Life cycle of a book. Okay, so we are looking at my book report here, which you guys have seen in many of my videos. And these are my sales for all of my genres. And what I want to do is look a little bit more at a specific genre, and we're going to go with my first written to market book, Destroyer. So you can see it's the top selling book I have of all time, and it had a wonderful launch. And I want to talk a little bit about the life cycle of this book and sort of how I've approached it. Now, for starters, I have 6 military science fiction books, and you'll see all of them displayed in just a second here once the screen updates. I also have the Void Ray trilogy, and of course this new box set that I've just released, which is all 6 books in one. So let's talk about how this went. I released Destroyer, Void Wraith, Eradication, and then Behind the Lines and Hold the Line came out in the same week. And Press the Line, the third book in that second trilogy, came out immediately afterwards. So you can see here's the initial release, here's the second trilogy release, and then it just kind of goes into a downward slide. And eventually you're just not making very much money at all, comparatively. So you go from, with a new release, making $15,000 in a release month for the second book to I'm putting out a second trilogy, and the best I can do for all 6 of them is $5,500 in a month. So launches matter. They matter a lot. And if you nail a launch, that's when you're going to make a fortune off of this book. However, it doesn't mean that if you release the first few books in a series and they didn't do well, that you can't turn it around and make a fortune. That's probably going to happen with the box set that I just released. We're early into this, where it just came out. What is today? Today is the 15th. We just came out 2 weeks ago, and it's already generated $3,200 in income and seems to be accelerating every day, which will probably do for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So I'm not going to see another $15,000 month, but I am going to get a shot in the arm. If we look at another genre, so if we go from military science fiction to, why don't we say, space fantasy, you can see I've done the same thing with a box set. And since that box set's been out longer, we can see better how it performs. Where if you look at Here's Tech Mage, the series launches, I have that great $12,000 month. And then, it falls for a little bit, and then I put out the sequel, and so we're hanging on for a little bit, and then, boom, we fall off that 60-day cliff. I don't put out a book for a while, and if I'm not having a release month, then I'm really not breaking 4,000 very often. It's falling to a very low point until each sequel comes out. Well, by this point in December, I had 5 books out in the series, but then you can see, even though the series is old, just like my military science fiction, I get that big spike again. That's almost as big as the biggest month ever with the first month release. And it keeps going. And what's happening here is I am using the intellectual property in an intelligent way. I try to run the books through Amazon's system, which is typically going to last for about a year. After that year has passed, most people in that ecosystem have seen your books. They're exposed to them, they've seen the cover art, Amazon has distributed them as far as they really can. You're just not going to get that level of sales. So what I do is create box sets to further the series. So you can see I've got that Magitech Chronicles quadrilogy, and for my military science fiction, I originally had the Void Ray trilogy, which I've since unpublished. If I click on this record, I wonder what it'll do now. Yep, see, sorry, can't find that page. I unpublished it because I've now published the Void Wraith box set, which is the complete series. So I'm basically upping my game, where instead of 3 books in a set, they're getting all 6, and it's complete. It's got a complete series story. There is an arc that is done by the end of that 6 books, and people love that. And so this is another attempt at grabbing market attention for a longer period of time. You can do it with the base books, and that's going to last for a while. And then you can release a box set, and that's going to keep things going for a while longer. And then eventually you could do a series box set. Well, what then? Now you've done a series box set. You can't really go any more than that. Well, once that series box set has generated the page reads it's going to generate and the audio sales it's going to generate, and I've gone as far as I can, I'll typically raise that to $9.99. So let's look at yet another genre. This one's going to look terrible because I have not pushed it in years, but I will be doing it this fall. We'll do our relaunch. This is my post-apocalyptic fiction. Well, normally when I have a box set, you can see it sits at a $9.99 price point. Like, I do make good money on this. So what I'll ultimately end up doing is, when we go back to military science fiction, when this box set that I have just released stops producing. I'll raise it to full price, and then I'll go to the next phase of the life cycle of a book. So I've pushed it as hard as I can through Kindle Unlimited. They've seen Destroyer as a standalone book. They saw it as part of a trilogy. Now they're seeing it as part of a box set. They've seen it in every form I can release over a couple of years. I've promoted it everywhere I can promote it. Sales are effectively going to dry up, and that puts the series in maintenance mode. So what I will do is take this series out of Kindle Unlimited at that point and make it wide. I'll start selling it at all other retailers, and I'll keep it there. And then after, let's say, a year of that series being wide, then I got to make a choice. Either it's selling enough at other retailers that I should leave it wide and just keep making that money and roll on that for a while, or it's not. And if it's not, I'm still probably not going to put it back in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited has, from what I can see, somewhere between a 2 and a 3 year cycle for most readers. People will binge read every day for a long, long time, but then eventually they'll fall out of love with either reading or with that genre and they'll stop. So if I remove a book from Kindle Unlimited for an extended period of time and I stop promoting it and then suddenly start promoting it again, it's a whole new fresh batch of people that are seeing it. So you're about to get to see me do this with my post-apocalyptic series. So what I'm doing is book 5 in the Deathless series is coming out in October. And what I'll be doing to prepare for that is relaunching the whole series. I'll just count all the books down at 99 cents and I'll promote the heck out of it everywhere in August. And I'll hopefully try to knock this series back into the limelight so that when book 5 comes out, I've got a lot of eager fans. That should be easy for me to do because I've let this series lie fallow for a long, long time. You can see, just kind of $250 a month. I'm not promoting it anywhere. I'm not really spending any money on ads. I do sell some audiobooks, but I'm not really trying to push it anywhere. Well, that's going to change in August, and I'll try relaunching it. And all of a sudden, because I've allowed this series to fall out of the public consciousness for a while, hopefully I should be able to get it back there. And next year, I'll do the same thing probably for the Magitech Chronicles. I'll release a box set that has all 7 books in the series. By then, sales will have died down. Like for now, they're still doing pretty well, and I've still got some tools in my arsenal where I can promote things. But what you're sort of doing is walking books and series through their life cycles, where you write the books to completion, and as you're writing it, you want to keep them as close to full price as you can. And then when the sales start drying up, you release a box set with the first few books. And then when the sales start drying up, you unpublish that, and then you release a box set that has the entire series. And then when sales start drying up on that, you either remove that entirely and unpublish it, or you push it to full price. And then you kind of repeat the cycle. And if you've got 4 or 5 series, you can go several years without somebody seeing one of your series so that when they do, it's like it's a brand new publish, like people have never seen this before. Because all the people that were reading books 5 years ago, most of those people have gone from being voracious, serial, habitual readers to occasional readers. But there's a new crop of habitual readers that would be very interested in your entire backlist. So anyway, guys, you can see a little bit of how I'm approaching the life cycle of a book. There will be a much longer talk that'll be recorded probably at Inc., that's Novelist Inc. this year when I speak, where I can get much more in detail. I've got a whole presentation on how this works and what my approaches are to my various series and interleaving them so that I'm always making money. And you can see, those of you who've been tracking my finances this year, that they're better than ever. And this is probably going to be a record month. It's going to beat out March and get me back where I want to be. Yeah, anyway, hopefully this is useful, guys. I do need to get back to the writing. I desperately need to get God's War written as quickly as possible. That is book 7 in the Magitech Chronicles that will bring that series to a close. So, back to a crunch time deadline, which is kind of nice. I've been working on courses. Speaking of, just a quick mention for that, the last module for the Ads for Authors Who Hate Math course should be live as you are watching this. They are now all there. We're going to do a little bit of modification to the course and tweaking some of the existing videos and adding a few more resources, and then it'll go off early access and be live. Thank you guys so much for everyone who helped. You've given some tremendous feedback and helped it become something absolutely amazing, and I am grateful for that. Almost everybody who helped is also a viewer of the channel, so you're probably seeing this. Thank you guys. You were awesome. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the writing, and I will see you guys next week.